Hey, I'm a black guy. I'm going to answer your question for you about why there's so many single mother homes in the black community because there's been a lot of confusion about this. And black people actually think that this is intentional, right? There are black women and black men who believe that this miscoloring of the black community has been intentional. But to answer this question, we've got to understand the numbers that are in the black community as it relates to marriage and children and childbirth and stuff like that. So, first off, 74% of children in the black community are being born outside the bonds of marriage. And so, outside the bonds of marriage, children means single mother most of the time. All right. Now, there are people who do uh, parenting agreements where parents never marry and they live together, but this is a very small percentage of those unions or those children's lives, right? The vast majority of these children are being born to women where the men that they had the child for doesn't want a wife, didn't want them for a wife, doesn't want a child, didn't want the woman to have a child. Okay. So it's an important, first, we got to talk a little bit about the social dynamic. Okay. So, first off, women pick who gets sex. And how do we know this? Because how many men have made you wait for sex? Right? None. Right? Or very few or none. Right? For men, all women make you wait for sex to some degree. They are the ones who give consent, who say, hey, it's okay for us to have. So, women are the arbiters of sex. Did you catch that? All right. So, men are the arbiters of relationship. Once you give a man access to your body and you're having sex with that man consistently, he's the one that decides whether or not it's going to become a relationship if this is a man that you want. Okay? He's the one that decides when you're going to be a girlfriend. He's the one that decides when you're going to get a ring. Okay? Now, women, they get to decide when you have children. If you're actively having sex with a man, the woman decides when you have children. You can not want children. You can tell the woman you don't want children, but if she wants children, then you guys are going to have a child because eventually the condoms come off, right? And you're dependent upon birth control, right? You're not going to be having sex with your girlfriend for 4 years using condoms. Let's just be real. Okay, so women decide when you're going to have children. So having sex with a man that you're not in a relationship with, that you're not married to, right? Having sex with a man that you're not in a relationship and you're not married to, a pregnancy can result as a mistake, right? Oops, we got pregnant. Oops, we didn't know. Oh, honey, guess what? I'm pregnant. Okay, but to keep a child is a woman's choice, especially in America. Now, understand in a black community, black women are some of the hardest fighters for the right to choose for women. So these are not a group of women who have a problem with abortion. There are actually more black babies that are aborted inside of the womb than there are born at this time. Okay? The most dangerous place for a black person in America is in the womb because that's how many of our children are aborted. Okay? So women choose when you're going to have a child, not men. Okay? So, like I said, getting pregnant can be a mistake, but carrying a child is a woman's choice. She chooses who gets born. So, now let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Okay? So, 74% of these babies are being born outside of wedlock. So, the woman is choosing to carry a child for a man who does not want her for a wife and does not want a child. Now, if you do this with an irresponsible man, is that going to make the man responsible? No, it is not. So you have to make sure that if you're having unprotected sex without a condom, with no birth control, we know that that means it's a question of when you're going to get pregnant, not if you're going to get pregnant. Okay? So we know that a baby is going to come, right? Eventually, right? And if you're having unprotected sex with no birth control and no condom with an irresponsible man, then you are an irresponsible woman. You're not a victim. You're a co-conspirator. Okay? And so the concept that you can take a woman who's being irresponsible with access to her body and having unprotected sex with a man, and that the man is an irresponsible dude who's just looking for sex, and then when a pregnancy comes and the man doesn't want to step up, that the reason there's a single parent home is because solely because of the man. Now the man is dog shit. I'm not sticking up for him, but I'm just not placing all of the blame on him. The woman has some blame too, because she's having unprotected sex with a man that doesn't want her for a wife, that doesn't want a child while she's not on birth control. And those are all very conscious choices because there's tons of women Men that women choose not to have sex with, that they choose to make weight, that have to take them out on dates, that have to do all of these things and jump through all these hoops so that they can get access to their body. So getting access to a child from a man in a nightclub or a bar, or a guy that you're side dating or sneaky linking with or cheating on your boyfriend with, or somebody you're not in a relationship with, is a choice. Do you understand? All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the numbers in the community, all right? 54 out of 100 black men are single and childless. They have no kids. They've never been married. Okay? That's half the men are gone from this problem of single parent homes that is plaguing the black community. Half the men we can't even talk about. Okay? 31% of the men are married. They're married. They're having their kids inside of wedlock. So 54 and 31 equals 85. So that leaves 15% of the men. 15% of the men and about 3% of the men from the guys who are married, because there are married men who have children outside of their wives, right? It's a bad thing to do. I'm not making excuses for these guys. Those are bad guys too. But that's 18% of the men. And 18% of the men are responsible for 90% of the out-of-wedlock childbirths in the black community. The other 10% come from other races, because believe it or not, in the black culture, our women have more children outside of wedlock with other cultures than any of the other cultures. That's a tough one, but it's true, okay? So it's part of the female sexual liberation, sexual empowerment, body count doesn't matter, my body, my choice thing, a consequence of that, right? A symptom of that thinking, of that empowerment and that freedom is because women can have sex with whoever they want, whenever they want, and body count doesn't matter, or at least that's what they're telling themselves, there are more children that are being born outside of wedlock. And in the black community, these empowerment tropes, feminism, womanism, these concepts are absolutely rampant. The women don't believe in gender roles. They don't believe in waiting till marriage. They're walking around half naked. They have very little modesty. And I'm not saying all black women by any measure, but this is a dominant narrative in the black community, and everybody can see it, right? There's no reason for us to act like I'm bashing black women. Like, everybody can see this at this point, right? Okay. All right. So you're looking at double the percentage of women who have children outside of wedlock than there are men who have children outside of wedlock in the black community. So how is that possible? It's because the women are all sleeping with the same men. There was a case of 3 guys who had 86 children in between them and 46 baby mamas. 3 men. Why are all of those women sleeping with those irresponsible men? And what we do is we make the women victims. Oh, he tricked them. Oh, it's this, that. These guys are in and out of jail. They don't have any place to stay. The women are picking them, right? You look at Future. He's a rapper. Guy's got 9 baby mamas. You look at Nick Cannon. He has 12 kids by 11 different women. Why are women having children with Nick Cannon? Right? If you want a father and a nuclear home and this, that, and the other, it's because it's a dominant narrative on the female side to do this. On the man side, it's not a dominant narrative. Like I said, 54 out of 100 black men, no kids, never married. 31% are married in a nuclear family. So 15% of the men, a small percentage of the men, and an overwhelming amount of the women are choosing to deal with these men. Now, you may ask, why would women choose to deal with broke, irresponsible men? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because the women are single, independent, they don't need a man. So they don't believe in submission. They don't believe in male leadership. They are very masculine, and that's what this guy is talking about. The women don't want to have to listen to a man or follow a man's leadership or guidance in a romantic relationship. They don't believe in that. And men who want to marry, they want authority in their household. So they just avoid women who behave that way. And that's why 21 out of 100 black women marry. They are the least married group of women in the history of the world because of this. Okay? So if you're a wife, if you're a woman and you're having sex with a man and he gets to choose when you're in a relationship and he gets to choose when you're a wife, and he won't do that because you won't meet his standards of being cooperative and submissive and helpful and feminine, then that means you're in sex only land forever. And that's what's happening in the community. That's why there's so many women where they are having these children outside of wedlock. They can't access the husbands because they won't put down the feminist, womanist, self-empowered, I'm single, I'm independent, I don't need a man, boss bitch, attitude, ego. They won't put down the grandiose ego so that they can have a husband. And husbands are men are the ones who propose. So We don't pick them, but there are plenty of eligible black men. 65% of us are in the middle class or higher. 10% of us earn over $10,000 a month, right? Only 6% of black men are in jail, so we're not all felons. 3% of white men are in jail, so we're double white men, but we're it's not a significant portion of the black population. It's not the reason that these women can't find husbands. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense.